Hello and welcome to another video review. This is Prince of Persia, at least the one from 2008, for PC, Mac, PlayStation 3, and Xbox 360. This was an interesting game for the fact that it's not a reboot of the franchise, despite not having a subtitle or a number or whatever. It has nothing to do with the original Prince of Persia games. It has nothing to do with the Sands of Time trilogy or Forgotten Sands. And so it just kind of stands on its own. It's just there. And it makes it kind of a spin-off title. They probably should have put a subtitle on here, but they didn't. I don't know why. It's got nothing to do with the characters from any of the other games in the series. And it's got nothing to do with their storylines. It's basically got literally nothing to do with them apart from the gameplay, which they say revolves around the pillars of Prince of Persia gameplay. And so I can see why people were really apprehensive about it at first. And I can see why they may have been disappointed with it when it was finally released and didn't have really anything to do with the other Prince of Persia games. But does that make it a bad game? I don't really know. So let's find out how it actually is. Now the visuals are just quite simply stunning. I went into this not thinking it was going to be very good in the visual department because I'd seen some screenshots beforehand. They were pretty early screenshots and didn't look that impressive. But then I actually got into the game, and I realized that the screenshots I'd seen were from the Corrupted world, which is this kind of dark brown, gray, mostly gray actually, world around you, and it doesn't look that impressive. But then you get to, say, a cleansed area where you've gotten rid of that corruption, and they really just open up with the bright colors, the immense beauty of this game engine. I mean, this game is just absolutely gorgeous. Animations are extremely good. They look mocapped. They really do look like real people moving around. Like when you do all the jumps and such, they actually look real. Although they are highly stylized. I mean, sure, they're stylized, but they look like real people moving. That's how fluid and smooth the animations are. It's really, really impressive. Just the art style in general really does give this very nice feel to it as well. It's kind of cartoony. I mean, there are outlines on things, but you don't really care because the visuals in general are just so impressive that it just melds together really well. Then you get to the sound design. Music's okay. It's nothing really that impressed me, but I mean, it wasn't a bad soundtrack by any means. It was quite good. It did its job fairly well, and that's job was to convey that kind of Persia-esque feel to it. Voice acting was surprisingly good. I mean, the characters of the Prince, that's what he's known as. He doesn't have a name. In fact, I don't think they ever reference him as the Prince either. But the Prince is he's got this kind of wisecracking character, and the guy who voiced him actually did a really good job with that. And his companion is Elika, and the voice acting for her is just phenomenal as well, and for the other characters as well. But you spend the most time with the Prince and Elika, obviously, and so you get a lot of their voice acting because they do a lot of talking, and they actually flow really well. Like, it actually sounds like they're really having conversations as opposed to reading lines from a script, and that's really nice. Sound effects, though, are a little wonky. They're not really impressive at all. It's not that they're bad, they just kind of do their job and you don't really notice them that much. And even environmental sounds you don't really notice that much. But overall, presentation, phenomenal. But it's really the story and the gameplay that matter the most. Now, the story is that you play as the Prince. This is not his title. He's not royalty. It's just his nickname. But he's out in the desert. His donkey has run off on him, so he's looking for the donkey. And he runs into this girl named Elika, who's running from these soldiers sent by her father. And you end up fighting the father, and he ends up unleashing this horrible, malevolent entity, Ahriman, on the world. And it ends up having these 4 corrupt beings that go around the area around this temple and corrupt the area around it. So Elika and the Prince have to go through these areas and cleanse them before finally going back and trying to seal Ahriman away. It's a really awful storyline. It's got so many ridiculous plot points that end up being twists, and they're like, at the point they happen, you're just kind of like, Really? That was your twist? That's it? That was stupid. And so you basically give up on the story. I mean, there's no amount of relationship between the prince and Elika, which actually is fairly well done. But there's no amount of that can make up for the storyline being as completely retarded as it is. So you go to the gameplay. Gameplay is your basic Prince of Persia, only a lot simplified. Now, Sands of Time trilogy eventually got pretty complicated and got very difficult. This one sought to bring a lot of new players into the series. And you can tell this because it's extremely simple. You basically have 3 attacks, and that's about it. You have your sword, you have your gauntlet, and you can jump. That's about it, really. Apart from that, you can do combos with Elika. She has magical abilities that she will blast things with. And so you can get into these more complicated combos with all of your moves and such. But to be honest with you, it really doesn't matter. The combat itself is incredibly simplistic and incredibly easy. Basically what happens is you just hold down the block button until the enemy stops wailing on you in their very patterned attacks. And then when they have stopped and leave themselves open, you just attack with whatever you feel like attacking with. You don't have to use magic, even though it's supposed to be the most powerful thing against them. So it ends up being pretty pathetic, to be honest with you. Combat becomes extremely easy, and unless you really manage to screw up horribly and not block an attack, then you're fine. I mean, there's not going to be anything that's particularly difficult to you. And so then you go to the jumping puzzles and the acrobatics in this game. And that was a major part of the previous games in the series, the Sands of Time trilogy. And they've kept that here, and it does flow surprisingly well. All of the movements will actually be very responsive. There's a lot of acrobatic maneuvers you can do, and Elika can get involved in those as well, for extra jumping and such. And so the movement actually does feel really nice. The problem is the puzzles themselves are stupid. They're designed almost entirely around the concept of trial and error. So what ends up happening is you'll go through these puzzles and you'll basically just have to figure it out as you go how to do them, and just end up screwing up over and over and over again until you finally get it right. The problem with that is doesn't increase the difficulty, because you can't die ever. Literally, the game will never kill you. You will, like, say you try to make a jump and you miss and you fall into the abyss. Well, guess what? Elika saves you. Well, say you're fighting some beast and you somehow manage to get it to hit you into basically an infinite combo that destroyed you. And so the prince dies. Oh, wait, no, he didn't. Elika saves him. Literally, every time the prince would die, Elika saves him. There is no game over screen. There is no death in this game. You literally just basically respawn instantly and keep going where you left off. It's pathetic. Makes the game ridiculously easy. And if it weren't for the fact that some of the jumping puzzles are idiotic in their timing and require a lot of trial and error, it would be way too freaking easy and you'd just be extremely bored with it. Especially since this is kind of an open world game. You are given freedom to go about doing the different things in the game as you wish. You can go and explore how you want. You can go and find different areas to go in and try to complete them before you go to other ones. And it's basically left up to you how do you do that. But it feels tacked on. I mean, the open world experience really doesn't feel central to the gameplay. It would have worked just as well if it was linear. And so what they ended up doing with this game is making a mess. The gameplay itself is just unimpressive. I mean, it's pretty to look at, sure, and it's really easy to pick up and play, but that's just it. It's too easy. There's no real challenge here. You don't really feel like you're accomplishing anything. And in the previous Prince of Persia games, the Sands of Time trilogy, it was completely different. You actually felt like you were accomplishing things when you managed to complete these difficult jumps and such. And so overall, the new Prince of Persia 2008 really isn't any good. It's not worth playing at all. And I mean, I got this for free, so I mean, it's not like I paid a lot for this game, and I still didn't have much fun with it. In fact, I didn't really have any fun. I thought it was nice to look at, and it's got really nice animations and such, but other than that, it's really just not fun. I give it a 2 out of 5. Thanks for watching.